I wanted to make a brief video giving my thoughts and commentary on Vivek Ramaswamy and his 2024 bid for the Republican primary. So the bad news first, making this after the Iowa caucuses. Obviously, Vivek didn't win the primary in Iowa and has subsequently dropped out of the race. And to be frank, he had little chance of winning anyway. Trump is by far the front runner, though I would have hoped that he would have done better. So that was a little bit disappointing. I think at the end of it, he was sitting at 7 or 8% of the vote. I would have hoped he would have at least beat Nikki Haley. But I think Vivek positioned himself where he was mainly competing with Trump, and Trump is still very popular in the Republican base. But in any event, I would have hoped to see him do a little bit better. I think on the issues, he's a little bit better than Trump. He's also younger. I think he's a lot more articulate, a lot more focused. Doesn't carry a lot of the same baggage that Trump does. But perhaps it just wasn't his time. I believe he's only 38 or 39, so he still could have a future in politics if he chooses to continue to pursue it. So that's the bad news, I guess. He didn't do as well as we would have hoped that he would have done, especially considering how hard he's worked. The guy's been anywhere and everywhere that he's been welcome. He's been on certainly the mainstream media. He's been all over the alternative media, all over the podcast sphere. As far as campaigning, I think he did more campaign events than all the other candidates combined, or at least close to it. So given how hard he worked, it's unfortunate to see that he didn't do better. But like I said, he's competing with Trump, and Trump is still very, very popular in Republican circles. And the left has decided to make Trump a martyr by going after him with all these politicized indictments. 2 ridiculous impeachments during his administration, both of which were clearly just partisan abuses of the impeachment process. I could go more into detail on that in another video, but look at how they've gone after him in such a ridiculous, over-the-top partisan manner. In doing so, they're basically galvanizing support behind him. But it is what it is. I think he exited the race with a lot of class, too. He didn't play the blame game and try to make his defeat about somebody else and make it somebody else's fault like so many politicians often do. He just came out and told the truth. They didn't do as well as they needed to do in Iowa, and he didn't see a reasonable path forward where he would be able to go on to win the nomination. So he gracefully bowed out and put his support behind the next best candidate. So I guess the bad news, of course, is him not doing as well as we would have hoped. But the good news is, I don't think his campaign was a complete failure. If you go out there and you boldly tell the truth, and you tell a lot of truths that other people aren't willing to say, even if the world ultimately rejects you, at least it puts you in good company. Here's a guy who comes out and boldly champions the America First movement. He's willing to come out and have difficult conversations, and he brings a message of unity. Let's focus on the values that bring us together as Americans, instead of the opposite of that, which it seems like we have been doing for too long in America, which is all this special grievance politics and pitting groups against each other. Let's get beyond superficial diversity and actually focus on what unites us as Americans. Because a divided America, while it's probably good for the political class because it gives them a lot of cover to do all kinds of other stuff, if we're bickering about nonsense amongst ourselves, well, the political class is in a better position to do whatever they want and rob us blind while we're distracted. In a divided America, it's probably good for ratings if you're in the news entertainment industry. All the rioting and constant upheaval is probably makes for really good television. It's certainly not good for ordinary Americans just trying to live their life and raise their children, and who just want to leave the place a little better than how they found it. It's certainly not good for ordinary people. The people that aren't in the political class or aren't anchors on CNN news analyst shows. So if you're a Vivek supporter like me, certainly this wasn't the result we were hoping for. But in life, you got to take the good with the bad. Even though he didn't get very far in the primary, he was still a very powerful voice for the America First movement and for the Truth movement, both of which are bigger than one person. and hopefully he'll continue to be a powerful voice for that movement. So what's next for Vivek? Maybe a 2028 run. I know that earlier in the race he said more or less that he wasn't interested in a VP spot. Maybe that'll change. I think of a Trump Vivek ticket in 2024 could be pretty interesting. If Trump does win, even if Vivek isn't the VP, maybe a cabinet position. But in any event, I hope at the very least he continues his podcast and continues his public advocacy for, his America First ideals. I hope he continues to try to unify people with our common principles, getting down to those first principles and trying to focus on what could potentially unite us as a country. So here's a thanks to Vivek Ramaswamy and his team for putting in a colossal effort on the campaign trail. And I hope this campaign was just the beginning for him and that we'll hear from him again. You've been watching the Fletch Report. If you're hearing this, it means you've made it to the end of the video. But before you click onto the next thing and continue down whatever rabbit hole you're on YouTube or Rumble, I've got a small favor to ask. If you found value in my content and you want to help the channel out, the best thing you can do is share it with somebody else that you think will find value in it. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Links to the channel on YouTube and Rumble will be provided below. Additionally, I'm making a Facebook page for the channel as well as a X/formerly Twitter. Feel free to follow me on those platforms as well. If you're feeling exceptionally generous, provided in the description below will be a link to Buy Me a Coffee, which is the online equivalent of a tip jar. Thanks for watching, and thanks for supporting the channel.